Hambini fans, and welcome to another episode of Hambini Reams. In today's episode, all the way from the Far East via America, a viewer, and we have to say thank you to that viewer, he knows who he is, sent me in this anonymously purchased Elves Falath frame. It's actually Falath frame for inspection and review, so we have that today. So what do we got? Well, this is the frame that famously Cam Nichols tried to review a couple of times and failed or didn't do or whatever. I think he had some issues with it. And then we've had a few other people who I'll probably ream later for being technically incompetent. Check the frame out. Now this is made in China. Some people say it's an open mold frame. I don't really like that term, but yeah, there you go. This one's a 49 centimeter, and as I said previously, it was bought anonymously. First thing you notice when you pick this frame up is the decals. These things, they almost feel like they're going to come off if you get them wet. They're just literally stuck on. The rest of the paint job is actually quite nice from a distance. When you get up close and you see how this has gone on, it's, I'd say, borderline shite. I mean, if you check out Falath, it's properly on the piss. The T and the H in Fatwat is like bent. So yeah, there's the first bit. So you get that. The other thing you get is the fork, which is like, I wouldn't say it's proprietary, but it goes into here like so. There's a bit of polystyrene still in there. So it sits in there like that. So all they've done really is moved the top tube. So the top tube normally intersects in here. They've just moved that intersection up. That's the only real difference. And then the stem and the stuff comes in at that angle. You also get the handlebars. These are one part piece Jourdain. I wasn't sure if that's pronounced Jourdain. Anyway, someone in the comments will probably know. One piece stem and handlebar combination together. You can pick several different sizes, and I'll talk about that in a minute. This is the frame weight, so it's about 1.12, 1.13 kilos. That's still got some of the polystyrene in it, or the foam insulation, but gives you a vague idea. The uncut fork is 474 grams, so you've got a frame and weight around about 1.5 kilos. Handlebars are 435 grams. So all in all, you're looking at 2 kilos for that frame set. This is the square rectangular section seat post. That comes in at 235 grams. Now this seat post is actually, I'd say, a very good design. It's similar, if not almost identical, to the one that Windspace uses on the T1500 and T1550. Proven design. The clamp, I think, is similar to what Ritchie had initially, but it gives you plenty of adjustment, and you know, that feels quite solid. Internally through there, there's not really too much to write home about. It's just scabby. I'll show you the pictures of that later on. So these are the one-piece handlebars, and you get all the specifications on top of it. Tells you all this, like blurbage, clamp diameter, all that angle, all that crap. The orange things are quite useful because it allows you to route the cables. Even if you're not using them to route the cables through, you can use them as draw lines to pull through. In here is actually pretty clean. I'd say that was probably fairly decent carbon manufacturing, decent compaction, and when I ran the camera through it, which I'll show you later, there was nothing really to write home about. It wasn't overtly bad. Finish on here is really good. We've got some DIN spec Allen head screws, cap head screws some people call them, and then yeah, so there's a rough bit round here for the STI levers to grip onto, and the clamp arrangement is in here. So you've got this, which looks like it's been reinforced. This isn't particularly round. I suppose it doesn't need to be because, you know, you are squishing it as an oval. So, you know, don't take that to heart. And then you've got the torque spec on here. Again, not really, you know, that cutting edge. It just works, so can't say much more than that. This is the fork. The bottom has got the usual through axle for a disc brake. Disc brake mounts are there and there. I've checked them. Someone's either, well, they haven't faced them, they've just masked them, which I suppose is one step up from facing them. They're slightly out, but again, you need to face them if you're going to, you know, get that absolutely puckered. To be honest, I think you probably get away without it. I don't think they'll rub. The rest of it is not bad. The carbon, when I ran the camera through, was okay. I wouldn't say it's the best quality, but it's certainly not the worst. Around here, there's no external voids. When I had it scanned, there was no big void showing up. Now, this thing has been the topic of conversation on various videos about having fiberglass inside and it being soft and all that kind of stuff. Well, I'll show you some bits about that in a minute. And the only thing that you really need to know is it's not very round. So it's probably not the doomsday scenario that it would be on other bits, but it's oval, quite badly oval, especially where the crown race would sit on the lower headset bearing, and also all the way up, it's oval. Now, this isn't really a good way of showing this, but needs must. So I'm spinning it around. You can see my vernier going around, so I'm just applying a little bit of pressure, and it's just jumping all over. I mean, just there, I can feel that out around. You can see the needle jumping. Then here, which is where the bottom race sits, it's the same kind of deal. So it's around there. God, it's just jumping all over the shop. It's not particularly round at all. Now we come on to the frame, and well, overall it's made of carbon. There are a few little interesting quirks of this frame. The biggest one is the choice of the bottom bracket. It's actually a PF30, which is in this day and age almost obsolete. So it's 68mm wide and has a nominal diameter of 46, but we will come to that. Bottle holder mounts, again, not really much to say about them. They all work. You've got routing that's all internal. So it comes through the head tube down here, through here if you've got gear cables, and through here if you're using Di2 or one of the others. Obviously it'll work with dub without really too much of an issue. I think they've gone for PF30, so they have the ability to use dub without any real problems. So anyway, as I said before, the sort of finish on here, I mean, you can feel that. I was used to sort of it blending in, but that's just been stuck on afterwards. Well, I'm famous for bottom brackets, and this one is mediocre stroke pushing it. First of all, it's out of spec. Its diameter is beyond 46mm, so if you put a normal PF30 bottom bracket in, chances are it'll fall out. It'll be alright because you can use retaining compound, and that should hold it in, to be honest. Alignment between the two sides, again, well, poor, but again, it's not insurmountable. The most obvious thing you can see here is the corners are a bit shitty, and it's not got a very uniform thickness all the way around. That's probably me being picky, but the inside of here is very clean. The actual inside where you can feel is almost like a razor blade. It is so sharp, but overall finish on there is pretty good. So this is the non-drive side. I've put the bore gauge in and it's sticking out. Hopefully you can just make that out, but it's 46.035, so it's out of spec. this is a shot of the inside. You can see it's quite clean. There's very few wrinkles in there. But around here, it's not been faced, so, and it's not flat. So, you know, take from that what you will. And you can probably just about make out the other side, and it's like a razor blade, honestly. This is the seat clamp. Now, I haven't taken it off because, you know, I've got no real reason to try it because it's not my frame. It's just a wedge-shaped assembly. Put the Allen key in, tighten, and it'll clamp it up against the square, rectangular-shaped seat tube, seat post rather. That's not really much to say about that. It's pretty clean in there, to be honest. Nothing really to say about that one. Top tube has this sort of vinyl effect on there, and it's just been stuck on. And you come up to here, which is like an addition, which is effectively the back end cover of the stem, and that takes us to the head tube area. I'm hoping you can see in there, but there's loads of loose fibres that are on the inside of the head tube. Yeah, not great. So there's not enough resin in there. This is the upper headset bearing landing. That's actually well compacted. It's round, it's concentric. I've checked it. Nothing really wrong with that. The bit on the inside, which I've just shown you, which had the loose fibres, that's crap. And this, again, is like almost like a razor blade. It's really, really sharp. That could do with sanding off because that's going to remain a bit of a stress razor. You could get crack from there. This is the lower headset bearing, and it's quite obvious. You can see the defects. Well, it's literally straight ahead of you. So you can see there's a fairly sizable void and one on the right hand side. It's shite, but there's so much material around there, it's not really going to put you in hospital. The rest of it, the bit around the outside, is good. It's round and concentric with the other side. Right, it is that time of the show again. It is time for PowerPoint. If you are new here, this is that part where we do actually do technical stuff, but most people tune in for the rampant ridicule, which is kind of like a necessity of this section of the show. So, the Elves Falath, not quite the superbike that YouTube or YouTubers make you believe, by Hambini, age 5. Remember to check me out on Wankstagram, on Facebook and on Patreon. I'm on Hambini Eng on most of those things. I think I'm Hambini on Patreon, but anyway, you know what that is all about. We need to check the pen is working. Now, those who don't understand what this is, let me show you. So this is the pen is working, and the adolescent moronic men who are sort of aged between 30 and 50, which make up 98.2% of the viewing public of this video. And there's quite a lot of people who don't identify as anything. Pen is short for penis. Right, Elvis on the internet. So we've got these three individuals, two of which are the same, but I couldn't quite recognise Cam Nichols there because he, you know, it's a different day, but he looks absolutely identical. Yeah. Anyway, right, so we've got this guy called Jourdain Coleman. We will come on to him in a minute. And then Cam Nichols. Now, all of these have had the Elvis frames. Cam said he bought this one anonymously and then had some problems with it. And then he also had this one, which I think was sent to him. And then Jourdain, or is it Jourdain? I'm not quite sure, so I apologise in advance. He's got the frame, and I'm not sure if he paid for this or if he was sent it. But you know, is it important? We'll see. Yeah. If you were going to look at this frame, and you know, the standout bad thing on this is probably this section right here, which is the headset. Yeah, I know what you're looking at. You're looking at that, but I'll draw your attention first of all to this. If we zoom in, you see here that fibres are fraying. So there's insufficient resin to actually capture that, or it's just overrun and they haven't cut it away. It just strikes of fairly poor and quick manufacture. They haven't taken the time to do that. The seats actually look not too bad, and then the wall thickness around the outside is also pretty good. So you can't really fault any of that. However, this is a problem because that is in a steering section. So the bearings on a bike, I mean the front end of the bike is heavily loaded because you've got, you know, the weight of you, the shock loads through the front suspension or lack of suspension, and you've got a cantilever, so you've got quite a long lever arm and it's spread over, you know, like 100 mil. So the distance between the top headset bearing and the bottom headset bearing is like 110 mil, something like that. That's not much at all. So I mean, some of the insurance claims I get, actually the vast majority of the insurance claims I get are to do with headsets and steering failures. So this isn't that great. However, I do like to present a balanced view. This seat is designed very differently to the vast majority that you get. So if you were to draw like a normal bearing seat, so it looks like that, and then on the other side, oh. So the bearing sits in here. The vast majority of bikes tend to have this setup, so it's quite a small bridge of material to hold the bearing in. The Elvis, the bridge is much thicker, but you've got this sort of great big void in there. So yes, you've gained in some respects because you know, the bridge and therefore the stiffness is higher, but you've got this great big void in there, which isn't great. Crack detection is a form of engineering that people are just bored senseless about it. But the basic principle is, if you were to take that void and then draw it out schematically, something that looks like that. The corners around here, which are sharp edges, are stress concentration factors. Give stress concentration factors. So basically you've got stress that comes along here, right, and then it's got nowhere to go. So in the corner of there, it tries to rip it apart, so you get cracks that emanate from there. So you're statistically likely, well, you will get more likely to get a crack from there than anywhere else. I mean, this is the inside of the frame. I mean, it doesn't look too bad, does it? That's okay. I mean, this is, you'd probably say this is just like really quick manufacturing more than anything else. This is where the riv nut comes through. So normally, if this is the base material, so normally you've got that, then all of a sudden you drill it. When you drill it, this happens. So you've drilled it and then you've basically punctured it, and these things are fibres around here. It's a good idea to cut them off so you end up with a clean hole like this. So you can put your riv nut through. And you also get a much better joint because the riv nut expands over. But they haven't done that. All they've done is just put the riv nut through, and it's expanded onto there, so it's not good. I mean, it's just quick. Is it going to give you trouble? Probably not. Water is more likely to get in there, but because the seal will be crap. And then you've got this sort of ridge tenting, so that's a carbon fibre displacement. So if it's bunched up there, that means somewhere else it will be thin. So there we go. Overall, yeah, it's okay, I suppose. Yeah, and then there's a bit of the, I think it's wax left over. I won't lose any sleep over that. Alright, PF30 overview. So nominally it is 46 by 68 or 68 by 46. So 68mm wide, 46mm diameter. And it was developed by SRAM as a cheap variant of BB30, so you put plastic cups in and then into the frame from there. And it was very, very popular. By far the most popular standard that existed in that sort of time period, so 2012 to 2019. BB86 came around, but the take-up was fairly limited. That's mainly because Cannondale stole the show. Open standard BB30 allowed you to fit much bigger crank axles into the frame. It wasn't without its problems, and the problem is the 68, so it's quite narrow. But now, these days, it is obsolete. So this is the only bike that I've seen with this, as a modern marketable frame. This is a schematic of the frame, so you can download that from my website, and it lists the key dimensions. So nominally, I would say it's a P7 tolerance, so it's normally 45.96 to 45.98. So that's your ideal. Okay, Cannondale generally tend to use 45.95. Sorry, not Cannondale. SRAM to 46 millimeters. But you can see it basically just needs to be under 46 and above about 45.95, otherwise the bearing crush gets too thick. Much smaller than that, it's out of spec. So my tolerance is slightly tighter than SRAM's tolerance, but in the end, am I going to worry about it? Probably not. But key point is it needs to be less than 46. Now, this is Jourdain Coleman's video. Let me play this.
Press fit PF30 bottom bracket. So the size of the bearing that fits inside the hole is 46 millimeters, and the width overall of the bottom bracket is 68 millimeters.
So let me just stop it there. He said the bearing is 46 millimeters. It's not. It's likely to be either 42 or 37, so that corresponds to a 6806, or, and I think this is more likely, 37 millimeters. So it's just the shell thickness before anyone gets confused.
I whipped out my trusty vernier caliper, which, let me tell you, has measured more bottom brackets than the number of packed lunches I've ever had. Quite the seasoned veteran. But before I put those jaws to work, I gave the left surface a little feel. And oh boy.
Now, he says he claims to have checked this left surface, and bear in mind, this video is almost designed as an advertising segment. I mean, you can see first of all, the bottom bracket shell has not been faced. That doesn't present a problem provided the paint is even, but it doesn't look it. The other thing is, I mean, look at the inside of that. That is like a fucking razor blade. And you can see the sort of fraying from the edge of the carbon fibre as well. I mean, I'm not quite sure what he was doing. Maybe he was paid for this.
It's as smooth as silk. Trust me, I've caressed my fair share of bottom brackets. Never thought I'd say that on camera. And this one is definitely up there with the best of them.
Now, this is where someone who I believe is either unqualified or unpaid, or paid, is misleading the public.
I'm going to take 8 measurements in a circle. I know I'll be duplicating measurements, but the more the merrier. You can see all of the measurements that I took on screen here. Now, if we look at the average measurement, we have 46.075, which is pretty...
So it's actually 46.0875. That is way beyond acceptable. I mean, it's getting on for... That's almost 4 thou. So that's a lot. You've got a range there, 46 millimeters to 46.2. That's complete garbage, and it's not just my bottom bracket that's garbage. It's obviously his bottom bracket as well.
Pretty good considering the bottom bracket shell is 46 millimeters. This will hopefully slide in and be a good fit. I then flip the bike around and I'm reminded that this frame is much lighter than it actually looks. Looking at the right bearing cup, I can see that it's the same as the left.
Yeah, it looks the same. It's unfaced and it doesn't look flat.
Super smooth. There is no cavities, roughness, and overall I'm happy with what I'm seeing. With the caliper, I took another 8 measurements, rotating 1/8 of a turn each time. Overall, the average was 46.1. So a hair width larger than the left side. I'm interested to hear...
So a hair's width. Well, a hair's width probably is 0.1 millimeters, depending on if you have thick, luscious hair like me or thin, wiry hair like other people. I mean, I don't know what I can say to this. It's frightening. Frightening is probably the best way I can describe it. Right, let me get back on to the PowerPoint. Ah, God. Right, so anything over 46 millimeters is basically slack. So your bottom bracket is gonna pop out, and that is not a good sign. Oh fuck. I mean, the out of spec business does not appear to be isolated. So you've got 2 frames out of a sample size of 2 that are both out of spec. And yeah, I'm not even sure what all that, I don't know. Yeah, if anyone thinks I'm picking on him, then, you know, I've pointed it out to him in previous videos. So, you know, take that into account. Peak Talk has also pointed it out to him about his measuring and his experts. It's also slightly worrying that he took the bike into, I think his name was Jimmy or something like that, the professional bike mechanic, and they didn't spot it either. Now the consequences, the biggest one you'll have is power loss, and it will eat bearings because you've got, you know, misalignment in there by default, and it's more likely to creak. And because you've got misalignment, you're more likely to get under rotation and trash the crank axle. So it'll be all fine and dandy for a little while, and then you'll start to get repeated, repetitive problems, which the GCN kind of answer to fixing these things is to put more grease in. Right, the moronic scale of cycling scam artists. Now this is because many moons ago, back in the good old days, we had the shitbag scale of engineering muckwittism. But the YouTube police banned that because they don't have a sense of humour. So we've replaced it with this. So on the right is pretty good, on the left is pretty bad. But to give you some sort of context, we have this, which is getting action at the betting shop. And that is the closest thing you'll get to heaven on earth. Getting action over 50, getting action, and then we come to the mediocre things in the middle. Gonadarrhea, chlamydia, investing in FTX, and worse than banging barbed wire. Angela Merkel, a fellow graduate from Leipzig University, no less, she is hot. Then we have Ed Laverack coming second. I'm not quite sure how that is even possible. I think he was shafted. Then we have not being able to tell your pen is working, and that's because I accidentally, well, not accidentally, I thought I'd return the favour, pinned someone's picture up on my YouTube, on my website, and some of the commenters commented about pens and working. Then we have Absolute Black's chain rings, which, and this is coming soon, will be the reaming of the century because they are obviously worse than banging barbed wire. They are immaculately well made, the world's house best chain rings in Polska. And then we've got the Absolute Black Crapo cage, which is again another fine piece of plastic engineering, and we'll talk about, you know, the love letters that they've sent me trying to sue me for over £100,000 no less. And then we've got the ensuing police investigation, which is just absolutely hilarious. Now, if you are going to stalk someone anonymously, make sure they don't find out. Finally, well, just before finally, we've got SBF's testimony. So if you haven't been following Sam Bankman-Friedman, anyway, SBF, his testimony is just hilarious. He's going down for such a long time, and I have to say thank you to CoffeeZilla for annihilating that clown. He's going to get more reamed than, I don't know, I'm just waiting to see. Now, I'm not even waiting to see him get reamed, it'll just be watching torture. Then, the Elvis. Now, yeah, okay, it's not in the complete crap league, but it ain't far off. Tidbits. So, the out-of-spec frame, the average bike shop is not going to be able to fix it. So, well, are they going to be able to fix it? They'll probably bodge it with one of those screw-together things, which is what you get with it. Yeah, I mean, you could fit two... if you went down the normal route, let's say, and then you fitted a bottom bracket with two independent cups, there's no real way you can guarantee the alignment. So you could, I mean, drawing this, I'm using my hands exaggeratingly, but you could end up with one cup up here and one cup down there, and then you've got your misalignment problem. And that's if you use some Loctite activator and some retaining compound, that'll probably be enough to get you away. But it's not ideal. I mean, the fork's not great. Some questionable marketing. I mean, are they paying influencers? I mean, I don't know. Are they, whatever. Make your own mind up. I mean, it looks flashy, but if you end up jacking the stem up, and a lot of you might, it doesn't quite look so sleek. I'd say a normal looking bike looks a bit better. Build quality, well, you've seen the video on that, so yeah, I wouldn't buy one. Now, in price order, this is what I would actually get. So if you're on an absolute budget, I think the Pro X and the light carbon stuff is pretty good. The cost there, when you buy it, is materials that aren't the lightest weight. So you're buying something that's slightly heavier, but it's well made. So yeah, I would take that over, you know, super exotic materials and crap manufacture. And this is the problem that most people possibly don't realise. It's you generally won't be able to get everything at a certain price point. The wind space, I guess everyone knows about that. They've got, you know, decent reputation these days. And then Cannondale and Time. So Time is probably a no-brainer for most people. The Cannondale, and this is kind of like a different way of manufacturing, because the Time is RTM, but the Cannondale is more pre-preg kind of manufacturing. I mean, the manufacturing tolerances on the Time are way superior to anything else out there, but it obviously costs a lot more. Cannondale stuff has gotten a lot better in the last couple of years, to the point where I've actually put them on this list. I used to just rip a strip out of them on at every possible opportunity. So, you know, kudos to them. They have actually taken that on board. Whether that's from me, unlikely. It's more likely to be warranty claims, and done something about it. That's not to say that if you buy any of these frames, they're like, you know, you're unlikely to get a problem. You might. Who knows? But statistically, it's going to be less likely than this. This lot are the ones I would avoid. Pinarello is just the epitome of the marketing, you know, machine. They've had that name for so long, but the stuff they put out, the stuff that comes in here, is crap, garbage. Ridley, I'm probably going to get assassinated in Belgium, but this is, you know, this is garbage, rubbish. Cervelo, yeah, what do I say about that? And my favourite Chinese bike company, Canyon, which is, again, it's like a marketing exercise. They've taken on a Chinese frame made in China, claimed it's German engineering, which it may well be, but it's just garbage manufacture, put on a huge margin and then sell it. I mean, I've seen some absolute shockers from Canyon's build department in Koblenz, but they're still in business. So, and they're likely to be in business, but if you ask me, I wouldn't go near it. Now, that is the end of this video. If you did enjoy it, remember to smash that like button. If you didn't, go screw yourself. And as always, keep banging your hairdresser.